Our guest today is the co-founder of Bronx Native and has cemented himself as one of the borough's most influential voices. Bronx Native is located at 127 Lincoln Avenue, where an array of Bronx-based accessories, including shirts and hats, are sold along with a steady stream of events that take place at the shop meant to highlight Bronx artists. Bronx Native was featured on Viceland's Hustle, and Amaudis has been awarded the Made in the Bronx Award by the Bronx Chamber of Commerce. Welcome to the show, Amaudis Young.
Thank you.
My man, I'm so excited to have you on the show.
I'm excited as well, Brody.
Thank you, man. Okay, so we have a lot that we have to cover.
Yes.
Okay, and one of them being social media, and social media makes it kind of simple for anyone to really kind of know your story. But I want to come at this like we've never spoken before. I want you to tell me...
Intense.
Right.
Yes.
It's super intense conversation.
I love it. Yes, let's do it.
I want you to tell me the origins of Bronx Native. When did you cook up this idea? Your motivations, your sort of end goal. Even though we've discussed before the show, there really is no end goal when it comes to your own brand and your own business. But let's go step by step. When did this sort of come about?
Let's do it. First of all, before I start, I just want to say, can I get a quick yer? Get it. And thank you so much for having me, my man.
Of
You're
course,
making
man.
it happen. Been following you for a hot minute, and
you, man.
I'm glad you got your own show.
Thank you.
Congrats on all the success.
Thank you.
I'm happy to be here. So Bronx Native, born and raised in the Boogie Down Bronx, right? I'm sure.
Well,
Well,
I was
Dominican.
born and raised in Manhattan, but I was
Okay.
legit like walking distance to Kingsbridge.
Okay.
And I had family in the Bronx. So basically, yes and no.
Yes,
But you know what I'm
I
trying to
mean,
say.
we all, it's all love out here, okay? But yeah, born and raised in the, but from Dominican descent. My family's
Yes.
from the Dominican Republic, where I was born here. I, was raised with this stigma, with this narrative of the Bronx being this bad place, right? Quote unquote bad place. Everywhere I went, even people from the Bronx saying things about the Bronx that for me, I never thought they were true, right? For me, I believe that the Bronx is the most beautiful place on earth, my man.
I have to agree.
I'm from the Bronx.
Yeah.
You from the Bronx. We're from the Bronx. We make the Bronx, right? We are beautiful. Our culture is beautiful. Our communities are hardworking, incredible people. So that makes the Bronx incredible, right? So I said to myself, we need to do something to change the narrative. We need to do something to change the stigma. And it just started with a conversation between me and my sister, right? We were like, look, we love the BX, right? We want to be able to wear merch. We want to be able to represent. We want to create something for the Bronx, by the Bronx. So I remember one night we were looking for merchandise online, right? Clothing that represented us, that identified us, that empowered us, and we couldn't find no BX merch, Brody. You seen the Brooklyn merch?
Yeah,
You seen
right.
the
It's everywhere.
NY. You see even Harlem, right? You walk through 125th, people's is buying, selling merch, but the Bronx didn't really have something like this. So we took it upon ourselves. Us coming from a creative background, I'm a graphic designer. I work in media, and my sister's a fashion designer. We said, look, let's create this brand. That not only creates this merchandise that represents us, but also tackles issues that the Bronx go through on a day-to-day basis, right? Essentially tackling all the stigmas, changing the narrative, and being a cultural hub for the Bronx, right? And we definitely, evolved so much from that initial conversation, and it's been an incredible journey. And I'm glad to be here talking with you about it. So,
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I want to touch upon that because Sanji, my producer, and I, we sat down for an interview pretty recently, and I spoke about how there is a narrative about the Bronx, right? Especially if you're not from the Bronx,
Yeah.
in which you think that it's gritty, it's hardcore, it's inaccessible, it's not a place you want to go to. And then you're right about the fashion. There wasn't anything really kind of, pushing out the Bronx as something that's marketable, right? So, which made it, again, inaccessible to people because there was no visual representation on anyone's body saying BX Bronx.
And can I get a year?
There you go, beautiful. And
Yes.
And I felt like that's super important, representation, right? Everyone talks about representation on so many levels, but when it came to the Bronx, like I said, I was walking distance from Kingsbridge, and I had family in the Bronx, and it just felt so isolated, like its own island,
Yes.
because there was no. I mean, I don't even want to say Brooklynized because Brooklyn, it's definitely its own thing, but there wasn't this positive image, I guess.
Yes, positive
Right?
image. There wasn't this kind of and you know, I'm happy to be living in this time. I always tell everyone what a time to be alive,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
Cause there's kind of this reawakening of like, look, the Bronx is beautiful,
Mm-hmm.
right? The Bronx is my home. I do want to represent where I come from, right?
Mm-hmm.
And this feeling of entrepreneurship and this wave and this movement of like people kind of stepping up and doing what they want to do, right? Expressing themselves the way they want to express themselves. And it's tying into this whole, you know, Bronx native movement and this movement of the Bronx, you know, moving forward and moving beyond these stigmas and this
Right.
negativity, right? So there's a lot more positivity now, you know, a lot of media, a lot of content, a lot of visuals that are now representing the Bronx in the light that it should. So I'm happy about that. Yeah.
Yeah, I noticed this when because I've actually lived in different parts of the BX throughout my life, and recently I was actually living in Brooklyn, and I came back to the Bronx,
Boo.
and
Yeah.
and I did when I initially was living here about close to like 10 years ago, my initial time in the BX. I did not see, especially on social media, any visual representation, much like the clothing,
Correct.
right?
Correct.
And then I would look up certain hashtags, Bronx, the Bronx, El Bronx, and you compare that to the images that you find with another borough. Again, always going back to Brooklyn, right? And then you see that difference, like that dramatic
Definitely.
difference.
Yeah.
And so I realized that in a way, going back to the marketing, these boroughs are really everything's a brand now. Everything's a
Oh
commodity,
no, definitely.
right?
Definitely did. Yes.
And even I was sort of under the spell of like, oh man, maybe there's not that much in the BX that maybe there's not that much that the borough offers, because I'm even being told that there's this specific way of thinking of it. And then of course I realize that's not true. Because we're
Yes.
in it now. We're the ones
Let's
that
get
create
it.
the narrative.
Yes, that is
Right? We're the
correct.
ones that push out the content so that the world can see what the Bronx is about.
Yep.
And I know that you're super crazy active on social media.
Yes,
And
indeed.
it's this question is sort of like it might be, I don't know, weird to answer, because let's say that there was no social media. The way that we have it now, the way that we know it now, how would you take it upon yourself to push what the Bronx is about? What would you like literally be handing out flyers, or like would you be doing like
In the
what do you
street
think?
with a whole costume.
Yeah, right,
Come
just
to
like-
the
like,
Bronx.
come
the
on,
Bronx is lit.
right?
Yeah. No, so in the beginning of Bronx Native, and I tell this to everyone, Bronx Native would not be where it's at if it was not for our Instagram account, man. Social media is a very powerful tool if used correctly, right?
Yes, it is.
I come from a branding background, marketing, design. I know the power of social media. I utilize it as it's like my job, right? I literally, you know, plan out all the posts for the coming weeks. I create the content. I'm constantly thinking, like, even here, like, okay, what am I gonna post? I gotta get somebody doing behind the scenes, this and that. You know what I mean? So for me, I tell everyone to utilize social media to promote themselves and make it happen. We are fortunate now that we do have two shops, right? We have the Bronx Native shop in Mott Haven and the newly opened Bronx Native Market in Hunts Point that allow us to have a physical presence. So if we didn't have social media, we could still kind of,
Right.
we
You
get
could-
the
you could-
audience.
exactly.
We still get the people. But that initial start of Bronx Native really started with our Instagram account, and us promoting on social media, us meeting. I remember going through all my followers. I was following all the influencers in the Bronx, and I said, I'm going to meet with him today. You know what I mean? Hey, let's chat. Let's have coffee, right? Going through the, connecting with people. Like you said, being very active and interactive. People want to connect with you, right? So I'm like on the IG story, like, yo, what's good, everyone?
right.
Good morning, this and that. And people react to that, right? People like that. People want that connectivity, right? So it's been very beneficial for us, and But if we didn't have social media in the beginning, probably handing out flyers,
right? Yeah.
get my spray can, start, spray can, writing Bronx native on the walls and
Yeah.
stuff like that. But we do have this great thing, which is social media and the internet and stuff that has allowed us to move and to the way we have moved.
And to have that virtual presence. All right, so let's continue that conversation when we come back from the break. Guys, we're taking a quick break. Foodie Down Bronx. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Foodie Down Bronx. I'm your host, M, the Hungry Dominican, and I'm joined by Amaudis Grullon of the Bronx Native. So let's get back to what we were talking about before, social media, because I can talk about social media until the end of time.
I love it.
So I do love your account. You have a wonderful account, and you mentioned how interactive you are with your followers. And when you were initially starting the account, you were trying to make connections real quick with people that were from the borough.
Yes.
Do you handle your account yourself?
Yes, indeed.
Okay, so it's a
100%
daily
it's me.
operation.
Daily, I try to answer all DMs, all comments, everything, and I got other accounts too that I'm managing at the moment.
And so, okay, so we also talked about this a little bit on the show, and I said, hold up, stop, because I definitely want people to hear about this. I think that if you're super dedicated to having your brand succeed online, on social media, you have to commit a lot of time.
Yes.
A massive amount of time.
Yes.
Right? And I think that it's easy for me, at least, to sort of know when I look at somebody's Instagram page, I can tell that they're either super dedicated or they just don't really care.
Definitely.
And you had mentioned that you tend to plan out your posts in advance. So there's no situation in which you sort of post like instinctively, like you just sort of feel something and you just want to put it out there?
do. There are times like that when I see something like, I gotta post this ASAP, right? So I do post like at random times. Also, if there's like, if I meet like a celebrity or like something is like hot at the moment, I'll post it ASAP. But for the most part, I do have every post planned out. On Sunday, I sit down, go through my whole schedule. I have these multiple accounts. I know what I'm gonna post. Try to post about 2 to 3 times a day.
Right.
In our main account, the Bronx Native, and curation, man. And I tell everyone, if social media is done right, consistency, good quality, interactivity, it works, my man. So it's worked for us, and I've even done workshops, about branding, about social media, about how to market yourself and stuff like that. And it's something that we would love to continue spreading the good news, and teaching people about this, because it's very important, especially, in the era that we're in, right? A very digital infused era where everything is like, if you don't have an IG, like, I've talked to clients, I've talked to business people, they're like, we don't even look at websites anymore. We look at Instagram accounts.
Yeah, that's true.
And I'm like, damn. So we see the value now. We see the importance of that. So, definitely.
I've had clients that have told me, we have a website, we understand the importance of having one, but that's not where they're looking right off the bat. They're looking to see if you have an Instagram. They're looking to see, let's see how big your Facebook is. I even have people who sometimes check on Twitter. I'm like, let's see what's going on Twitter.
What is he writing these
Like, what is he
days?
writing? Right. Actually, let me ask you about Twitter. Do you tweet?
We do. tweet. No. So we do have a Twitter. We're not as active, right? Whatever we post on the Instagram gets posted on Twitter and the Facebook. I am trying to get a team together because I do, it gets overwhelming at times. That one IG page takes a lot of my time. So we have somebody who's taking the Twitter to build that up. And then we have somebody who's helping with the Facebook as well, right? So I have somebody on Twitter, Facebook, and for me, I'm just doing Instagram for the most part.
Do you think Facebook is super important? And that might be another silly question, but I've had conversations with people who just do not even mess with Facebook. They completely ignore it. They just stick on Instagram. And for me, it's like, all right, Instagram might be the face of your company, but the backbone, I think, for me is Facebook.
Yeah. It is the backbone, especially since Facebook bought Instagram, right?
Yeah.
And you can actually, there's a lot of these tools, these business tools that you can target audiences in Facebook that you could probably can't really do on Instagram and stuff like that. the shop is connected to Facebook, which connects to Instagram. So we do use Facebook. Our face, we our main page
Hmm.
is Instagram, but I do believe in making sure your assets are not only on one space.
I agree with you 100%. Yes,
Definitely
for sure.
do these other social media platforms, even YouTube, right?
Yeah.
People could be like, oh no, it's too much, like videos, the
Hmm.
algorithm, all that stuff. Do it, man. I go to these. We go to a lot of schools, right? We talk to a lot of kids, and about entrepreneurship, creativity, the Bronx, and they're always talking about YouTube. Everything is YouTube. I mentioned, yeah, we have a YouTube. Oh, how many subscribers do you have?
Hmm.
Oh, do you know PewDiePie? Oh, you know this gaming and YouTube and whatever. And I'm like, damn, these kids are very. YouTube is like a kid. I was talking at a this seminar thing for kids, entrepreneurs from the Bronx, kids,
Hmm.
which is incredible. And this kid just raises his hand. He says, YouTube is my universe. And I'm like, that's incredible. Congrats. That's
Yeah.
that's and it, but so saying this, we need to be able to be diverse, right? So not only the Instagram, definitely the YouTube, and even from hearing that kid, I'm like, damn, I really gotta get back on my
Yeah,
YouTube game. You know what I
it's
mean?
really a tier system, right?
Yeah,
Because you
yeah,
realize that Instagram might be the thing that everyone's talking about, but
yeah.
it's the thing that everyone from our age bracket, our
Yeah.
generation is talking
Yes.
about. And
Yeah.
then you have younger kids who might be more into YouTube,
Hmm.
and then you have whoever's into Twitter. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Because for me, it's like you and I, we're both millennials, but I'm
Mhm.
coming at it from like the beginning of the spectrum, and you're coming at it towards the end of the spectrum. So
You
there's
know the
that
vibes.
there's a lot of
Hmm.
things in between us that
Hmm.
we've experienced very differently,
Yeah.
and how we use social media is quite different. That's why for me it's like initially I had just started Instagram, and I was like, Instagram is the only thing for me, and then I realized that, well, there's more people kind of my age bracket that actually like Facebook. And so I
Yeah.
realized the
Yeah.
importance of Facebook for my business, for
Yeah.
my branding, for my marketing. And I wanted to embrace it. Now that I embrace it 100%, it's like I realize that it's super important
No,
because
definitely.
if anything, Facebook, like I said, it's kind of the backbone of most businesses. Speaking of which, I want you to tell me a little bit about your Bronx native market.
Yes.
Give me some info.
Intense. So 2 months ago we opened up the Bronx Native Market in Hunts Point, right? So what we did with our first shop in Mott Haven, 127 Lincoln Avenue, we created a cultural hub, right? A place not only to sell our merchandise, but a platform for artists, creatives, entrepreneurs, right? To express themselves, to gather, connect, network, and it's been beautiful, right? Very organic, very we've kind of become this small hub, iconic space where it's like you have to go here
Right.
to experience the Bronx, right? And we're about to be open there for 2 years now. In
Congrats on that.
October,
That's
we're about
awesome.
to be 2 years. Thank you. And then with this new, you got the opportunity to come to Hunts Point, which is my old stomping grounds.
Nice. Okay.
Longwood, Hunts Point area. And for us, we wanted to continue what we were doing in our initial shop, but now be more for the community, right?
Hmm.
So we call it the Bronx Native Market because it is technically a market, right, for other artists and other entrepreneurs that have a product, that have a brand, that want to sell their stuff there. So we have about 20 plus vendors at the moment in the
Hmm.
market. Anything from clothing to soaps to jewelry, So we have a diverse range of different vendors, and it's very beautiful for us to become a platform in these different levels, right? Not only in events and stuff, but now we're like a physical shop
Right.
for these other entrepreneurs and for these other creatives that are coming up and maybe didn't we didn't really have this when we were
Hmm.
coming up, but now we're providing this, and it adds to our mission and what we're doing through Bronx Native.
How does that make you feel just as a person? All of these things that you're sort of
That's a
giving to your
deep question.
community.
That's a deep question. No, it makes me feel great. You know what I mean? When I started Bronx Native, it wasn't really about selling merchandise and making money and
Mm.
doing this and that. It was very much about the community and doing something good and impactful, right? I went to the School of Visual Arts, which is downtown by 23rd Street,
Hmm.
to do graphic design, and it was incredible. But every time I went up there and I said, "What's good? I'm from the Bronx, New York," they looked at me crazy, right?
Yeah.
They were like, "What is the Bronx? I've never been. Have you been shot before? I'm scared. I don't know what to do."
Yeah.
So and I saw the lack of just knowledge, and the lack of people, what they've seen in the past or what they've heard and stuff. So I really wanted to change people's perspectives, right, and really put the Bronx on the map. We've been on the map,
Yeah.
coming from nothing, hip hop, salsa, everything we've provided to the world, but now we've kind of been underrated, left to the side, and for me, I wasn't having it, you know what I mean? So it was very much about putting our people up there and showing the Bronx the way it should be shown, right? And it makes me feel incredible. You know what I
love
mean?
that.
I love it, and,
I
and
love that.
very fulfilled, very happy, and it's what I want to do for the rest of my life, man. You know?
Awesome. Let's continue after this break. Guys, grab yourselves a snack. Foodie